Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. Depeche Mode, Some Great Reward. Some Great Reward was released in 1984. It was a number 5 album in the UK and featured the hit singles People Are People, Master and Servant, Blasphemous Rumours, and Somebody. In a lot of ways, it continued with themes that began with the Construction Time Again album. There was a metallic sensibility to this record. It was almost as though you were in a car warehouse in Dagenham and welding was being constructed. Lots of sharp spinning noises, metallic thrusts, and this was definitely a key sound for the band at this time as they found themselves following the success of Everything Counts and other earlier singles. The first track is Something to Do, a frenetic, electronic, robotic, movemental piece which shuffles along really quickly with the, is there something to do, is there something to do kind of thing, which goes on and on and on. It's fine, it's very kind of indicative of the house that will follow, the techno that will follow. Depeche Mode are often referred to as godfathers of house and techno, and here they are in their less sublime form. Lie to Me is not standing out in the same way for me. People Are People is the big hit. It's the number 4 record. It's this idealistic kind of record where it's like, people are people, so why should it be you and I should get along so awfully? Well, I'll give you a clue, Depeche Mode. It was in the lyrics to Everything Counts. It's because people are greedy, money-grabbing assholes. That's probably why we can't get along that well. So it's interesting that People Are People is the next big hit single because in terms of its content, it almost contradicts the cynicism of Everything Counts. I can't understand what makes a man hate another man, help me understand, is my favorite part of this song. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's not memorable for me. Stories of old. Great ideas, just not the meat and potatoes that really cements Depeche Mode for me. When I think of Depeche Mode and how they start and how they come out of the gate and what their purpose is, it's the north-south divide with Depeche Mode, and we've reviewed a lot of northern acts here with Human League and ABC, and Depeche Mode are very distinctly a southern act, taking a French name which essentially means instant fashion. Were they a dreadful pop band, or were they a really awesome alternative band? The fans loved them to bits. It's kind of hard, though, when you think of the British music scene and the press and how divisive they can be. Depeche Mode were a little too serious for smash hits readers, for sure. We loved the band, but they were slightly above what we did at smash hits, but they were slightly below what NME and Melody Maker were doing. So this must have been a challenge for them. As Somebody comes in, and this is the Depeche Mode torch song. This is Martin L. Gore wearing a delightful petticoat with his nipples showing and a shaved blonde crop of hair and singing a song about how he wants to be with somebody. And this is where we have to give Depeche Mode credit because they were really this kind of group that pushed the envelope in terms of sexuality from a heterosexual perspective. A lot of people would look at the imagery of Depeche Mode from 1984 and say, oh, they're gay. Because that was the small-mindedness of people that existed in 1984. They were very much a straight band. They were ahead of the curve with these techno beats. They were ahead of the curve with this idealism, and I really feel that Somebody is a strong song. The background to the song's interesting. There's kind of shuffling going on in the background. He's kind of singing this song almost on a street corner. It is touching. I do like the song. Master and Servant is the next song on this album, and it has an extended intro. I recently voted this in my top 3 as some of my favorite songs of right now. I think that Master and Servant's a really important song, and it really harks back to the potency lyrically of Everything Counts, where People Are People to me was more of a crowd pleaser. Master and Servant pulled no punches as electronic sexual imagery is brought to the fore. and a lyric which really does pertain to the commerciality of our lives and how we do feel as though we are servants and our masters are our employers, and how master and servant in the bedroom is a completely different concept, how it is a rewarding concept, how we do like to be a slave to somebody else's domination in a natural form, but not in the unnatural form of commerce. And the unnatural form of commerce is also discussed at length on Everything Counts. And I am with Depeche Mode 100% of the way with this kind of ideology, and I believe they may well have planted that seed in my head. They're a very important group on this anti-commercial, anti-selling your soul to the devil kind of mantra, which is apparent in this early 80s material. If you want, I remember it vaguely. I've listened to the album a couple of times. It just doesn't jump out at me the same way that the rest of the singles do. We do have to talk about Blasphemous Rumours, which is the last track on the album and by far the most controversial record to my mind that Depeche Mode have ever made. At this point, when Frankie Goes to Hollywood are doing Power of Love, Wham are doing Last Christmas, Depeche Mode are doing Blasphemous Rumours. I don't want to start any blasphemous rumours, but I think that God's got a sick sense of humour. And when I die, I expect to find him laughing. And here's the kicker, harmony on the laughing, which I really just find to be... This is a very deeply disturbed record talking about how screwed up life can be. And as all the competition does sing along Christmas, Depeche Mode say, God's got a sick sense of humor and I expect to find him laughing when I die. So Depeche Mode at this point had made this conscious decision, bearing in mind this is the last track on the album. I kind of feel when I was listening to the album, this was like the ultimate middle finger to establishment. To kind of go along with this whole we've got a Vince Clarke past, we're going to give you People Are People, which is a pop hit, but then really stick the middle finger up on the last track and say, fuck all of you, God's got a sick sense of humor, was really what I think gave this band the wings, the legs, the hooves and the claws to fight their way away from anything that was mainstream. At this point, I have to mention my cousin, Michael Rose, who is an avid Depeche Mode fan from the beginning. And in the same way that Human League are my favourite band, Depeche Mode are his favourite band. And if we were sat in a pub in Chelmsford discussing this album, and we'd had a couple of pints, and Michael were explaining to me the finer point of why this record is genius, he would probably give me a very convincing argument of why I should award this album 85%. And if Michael were in the room, and if this was purely for Michael's benefit, I would give the album 85% just because it's Depeche Mode. The fact of the matter is that if Michael wasn't looking, and I've got a set of balls to say that this album scores 65%. If you'd like to subscribe to the channel, recommend it to friends, post comments. Also, if you have an album that you'd like to hear reviewed, we welcome your requests.